I'm back. It's time again. First, Joshua 1:9. This is a message. Be strong and courageous with everything that's happening. Now we got to worry about judges, courts, lower courts trying to tell the president he can't do anything. The only court that has jurisprudence over the executive branch is the Supreme Court. Let me break it down for you. A member of the House writes a bill, reads it on the floor of the House. Everybody says, well, that's a good idea. We need a new law. They vote on it. It passes the House. It goes to the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. He reviews it. If he feels that it's constitutional, he passes it to the Senate. If he doesn't feel it's constitutional or it needs ratified, he sends it back to the House. And they amend the bill to reflect the language or take something out of it that made it unconstitutional or whatever. And then it goes back to the Supreme Court Justice, then to the Senate. The Senate reads it on the floor. They vote on it. If it passes in the Senate, it goes back to the Supreme Court, and then to the executive branch, the president, to be signed into law. The president can sign it into law, or he can veto that bill altogether. And then it goes back to the House. That's how the government's supposed to work. The president has executive powers. That means he can write executive orders. He can bypass Congress. So for a general sessions judge or an appeals court judge, they really can't stop the president. All they can do is file an order to delay. Because now, all Trump is going to do is appeal it. And it'll appeal it all the way up to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court's going to say, screw you, judge. And then most likely that judge is going to get impeached out of office for trying to overthrow a president. Pretty much that's what's going to happen. See, you got to have your doggone tinfoil hat. You got to have your good dog by your side. And you got to use a little bit of brain and common sense. Look, back in 1993, not a whole lot of homes had computers. And I remember Bill Clinton. I do not like him. I was in Somalia when Monica Lewinsky was in the Oval Office bathroom. Keep that in mind. Yeah, I got a personal grudge against the man. But, hey, that's just me. I remember him calling for every home in America to have a personal computer. He called it the information highway. So when you hear something on the news that, you know, well, the judge has stopped President Trump and now they're trying to go after Musk too. The president can appoint anybody he wants to. I don't have to like it. You don't have to like it. Nobody has to like it. That's just the way it's always been. Other presidents have appointed people I didn't like either. I'm not saying I like Musk or don't like Musk. I'm saying right now he's working for me. And he's doing a good job. That's just my opinion. You don't have to think the way I do, but him exposing corruption. I mean, I knew there was corruption in the government. I worked for the government in the military for 25 years. I seen corruption. I was in the military when it became known that we were paying $800 for hammers and toilet seats. You know? I knew there was corruption in the government, but I didn't know they were hiding it all right there in plain sight. USAID, or USAID, is nothing more than a money laundering scheme. Cooked up. It's not even an official government agency. All you got to do is look that stuff up on the internet. If it was a viral video, you'd look it up. Look the doggone stuff up on the information highway that, hey, you know, you would have thought somebody in Congress would go, oh, wait a minute, Bill. Wait a minute, Bill. Wait a minute. If we put the information highway in every home, they might find out stuff we don't want them to know. You would have thought they would have told. No, what it is who controls the internet? The same people who controls cable TV. The Federal Communications Commission. That's who controls stuff on the internet. They even try to hide it on the internet, and when you bring it up, you know, they shadow ban you. What that means is it looks like to you that you posted something, but nobody can see it. Judges can't shut down the executive branch of the government on their own. And every day, my common sense umbrella gets bigger and bigger. "30 years ago, I told people that these agencies were corrupt. 30 years ago, and even since, people have laughed at me, called me names, ostracized me. You know, it's funny. You want up? He's gonna mess with me until I get him up because he hears me talking. I made him a little tinfoil hat too, but it wouldn't stay on his little head. I don't want him brain damaged. Don't want to. Oh, quit now. You want it up, you're up. I'm gonna go right for the earlobe. You've already eaten. He's a little food blister. Look at it. Look how fat he's getting. He's a little food blister. He wants to eat all the time. Sometimes I regret serving in the military. Sometimes. Not all the time. I'm very proud of my service. But sometimes I regret learning what I learned, knowing what I know, doing what I've done. And like I said, it feels like sometimes I feel like I left a battlefield overseas and came home to another one here. All I want is peace and quiet and a good riding reel. That's all I want. I fought for this land and I own none. I don't owe any creditors either. I owe nobody nothing. It bothers me when for 8 years, the last 8 years, including Trump's first term, we'll say 9 years because of that year of campaigning before, we've heard nothing but about crimes and criminals and treason and sedition and corruption. Haven't seen not one person locked up for it. We've seen protesters locked up. Just protesters who protested an election or questioned it. And in of those 1,200 and something arrests, most of them spent 4 years in prison without ever being charged. That's the exact definition of a political prisoner. Sometimes I think it would be a whole lot easier if Donald Trump would just do one massive data dump in one day. Just throw it all out there, every bit of the information, and when the dust settles, then the right people should be going to prison. The good news is caravans are doing a 180 and taking that long road back home. They know not to come. They know the military's on the border. They know things are changing. The whole world is changing. If you look at some of them European countries, they're deporting people too. And if you notice, our media, they won't tell you what's going on in Great Britain or Germany or Finland or some of them other countries over there. Poland shoots people breaking into their country. I posted an article that came out last week. I posted that on my Facebook last week. Poland, just pow, pow. They said, nope, you're not coming here. And they opened fire on them. Is that extreme? Can you imagine if our military did that? CNN don't even mention it. That's what's happening in Poland. They won't even mention it. They don't want you to know. If you want to know, if you hear like Trump or one of his secretaries talking about what's going on in Germany, don't read the American news about that issue. go to a German news channel or a newspaper. You'll get it more accurately. And they got their own corrupt stuff going on too. Every country's got it. The trick is to weed through. Use common sense. You're starting to hear that term more and more often. Use common sense. Use common sense. This morning, I was looking at the news online, and they were talking about a $12 million home up in Martha's Vineyard next door to the Bush compound that sold in 90 minutes. That sold in 90 minutes. Now, my common sense-o-meter automatically kicked over into high gear. And, well, for like the last 25 years, what have we been told? That beautiful seaside villages were going to go away when the ice cap melts because of climate change and global warming. All right? So if I had $12 million, do you think I'm going to buy a house in a flood zone? If I had $12 million, do you think I'm going to buy a seaside plaza that might be underwater, any minute now? How does that happen? Everybody knows about climate change. Everybody knows the ice cap is supposedly melting. The waters are going to rise. They're saying that the beachfront property is going to could be as far inland as Ohio. And somebody's going to go pay $12 million for a house that's going to be underwater. My common sense meter went and hovered over the climate hoax. Use common sense. God gave you a brain. He expects you to use it. You can't be a free man if you keep listening to other people talk. The movie stars and the people out in Hollywood trying to tell you how to live, how to dress, how to talk, how to walk, how to, who to vote for, who you should follow, who you shouldn't. You don't need a tinfoil hat. You just got to use common sense and the brains God gave you. And to be honest with you, it's very hard for me to even turn on the TV or even turn on the internet anymore because I get tired of hearing about all this stuff. I'm sick of hearing it. I want to see stuff done about it. Don't you? And what gets me is people will go onto the internet to complain about what they read on the internet about the internet. Does that make sense? There was a time before the internet where you were encouraged to call your congressman, walk into his office, send him a letter. They don't want you to do that no more. They want you to complain to other people who are complaining on the internet. None of them people, I don't care if they got a blue check mark or not, they don't run their own internet sites. They got people that do that for them. Trump has been known to use social media himself. That's one of the reasons why I like him. If you get the word straight from him, you good to go. And he don't say much. He can't. As a military guy, you don't do anything, you don't say anything, and you never leave nothing like maps and stuff to where the enemy can get their hands on it. You don't want the enemies knowing what you're doing or what you're planning. So Trump can't say a whole lot because he's got too many people working against him. He's not one of the insiders. If he was an insider, people would be speaking for him. But because he's an outsider, he's not part of the establishment, you got people bucking against him. And they'll eventually go away. We've had too much corruption for too long for it to be fixed in 2 weeks. So whatever you hear on the news, if you watch the news, or whatever you read in the news or online, you have to cipher and filter through it and use common sense and reconcile what you're hearing and seeing with what you know to be accurate, and what you know, if it sounds like BS, it probably is. More music videos are coming, I promise. But I just had to get this out. It bothers me. I don't lose sleep over it, but it just bothers me. This is my country. This is the land I fought for. And it's the land I'm going to be buried on. When's the last time you called your elected official and gave him an earful? When's the last time you walked into his office? We can't trust our politicians anymore. We have to elect one and then watch him like a hound dog. And every time he gets a tick on him, well, time to give him a new flea collar and a dip bath, and let him know that we ain't putting up with it, or her. You would think that most of the liberals would have saw what Trump and Musk was exposing, and they would have said, well, maybe I was wrong about Nancy Pelosi, or maybe I was wrong about Chuck Schumer, or maybe I was wrong about AOC, or maybe I was wrong about, supporting this and supporting that because of all the corruption. But no, they got to stick with their narrative. A lot of them are being paid to be mouthpieces. This is a new kind of civil war we're going through. And it's an information war. I remember my mom, when she made homemade biscuits, she had an old flour sifter, She sifted the flour. That's what we need. We need an information sifter. We need to see some people start getting locked up for their crimes. That's what we need to see. I'm tired of hearing about a crime, but the good guy's going to jail. You don't believe it? I can prove it. Remember the little dude that shot the other dude? You know, he was there to help people. He had a gun, you know, and then the BLM protesters tried to kill him. And he ended up shooting 3 or 4 of them. Who went to jail in that case? The good guy. Protesters get shot in the head at the Capitol, and who went to jail? The good guys. I'm a military man. I don't want to hear about treason or sedition unless I see somebody perp walking with it. Just in case you know, there ain't but one punishment listed in the Uniform Code of Military Justice for treason. And I have watched treason, I don't know how many times over the last 8 years.